So I've been thinking a lot about imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome it's one of those things that when I first heard about it, I don't remember exactly how old I was, but I do remember I was probably in my 20s. I sighed in relief that I was not the only one, and I immediately knew what it meant. I didn't need to hear an explanation or anything. I just heard about it and I was like, oh, thank the Emperor. I'm not the only one with that thing. Because I thought my entire life that I was like the only fake. And, partly it's because I've done just so many different things in life. I've had so many interests. I've ended up in life in so many weird places, and I'll tell you all about them at some other point. But the thing is, since I never quite dedicated myself to any one specific thing, I always kind of felt like I was faking it the whole time. And I believe an entire life of suffering from this symptom has taught me a lot, and it has become, I know this is extremely cringe and cliche, but grow up. Everything's cringe. Everything that's worth a damn thing is a little cringe. But it actually, I would argue, has the ability to become your superpower. Imposter syndrome, that is. And I would like to share with you why. So, I'm sure there's a bunch of YouTube videos that have a bunch of very accurate or well essayed and studied explanations. But here's mine, okay? For what it's worth. I am not a professional in any of this, okay? Don't take everything I say with a fistful of salt, sorry. A grain of salt? A grain of sand? It's a grain of salt, I think. I'm learning English, okay? Anyways, I think people who have imposter syndrome are just people like who myself were born with the software in our heads, the command in our heads, fake it till you make it. The problem is that we have a lot of trouble knowing when we're faking it and when we're making it. And I believe that the key to making imposter syndrome, turning it into your superpower, is to know when you're faking it and when you're making it. Now let me tell you how. I believe, and this is my extremely well studied theory. I studied it for all of 10 minutes while I was taking a hot shower sometime after work. I believe that there are two types of people with imposter syndrome. You have the ones who feel like they have to pretend to be doing the thing because they feel, and this is a tough pill to swallow, because they feel like they haven't earned the thing. They know deep within themselves that they haven't tried as hard as they could. They truly feel like that they could have tried a lot harder. And I know, part of you right now, if you feel like you have imposter syndrome, is like, no, that's not true. That's impossible. I promise you, I tried as hard as I mean, I know. But also no, you know that in the most profound depth of your soul, there is a tiny part of you that knows that you could have done just that bit much more. Otherwise, you would not have imposter syndrome. And again, I'm not a professional, but this is my true belief. Now, here's the thing: everyone goes through that. Every kid that had a test in school goes through that. When you could barely talk, where you couldn't even talk or walk, and your parents gave you that little toy that has all the shapes, and you have to put the right shape in the right hole. You put the sphere in the ball, and the square in the square. When you do that, I assure you, if you can't remember because you were a tiny, puny baby, but I assure you that part of you was like, ooh, that worked just by accident. But my parents think that I'm so smart, so I think I just faked it. But you're just gonna be like, yeah, I knew, I was so smart with my big baby head. Again, you don't remember, but I promise you that this happened. So what's my point? Everyone goes through that in life, okay? That doesn't make you a worse person. There's absolutely nothing wrong with you. You try to get away or to get by doing the least that you could do. And in one of those situations, you got a thing in exchange. You got a reward, and it felt good. Like your parents seeing that you put the square in the square, and that was by accident. You were just hitting every hole, or you thought, oh, I'm gonna hit every hole, and just the square happened to be the first, and now they think that you're super smart, but in reality you have no clue how that happened. And now you feel under pressure to do it again because now they think you're smart. And just like that, but just imagine that baby's an adult now, and the same thing keeps happening. He does something, he gets something in return, a certain reward. People are like, oh, that guy's cool. And you're like, ah. Oh, someone goes, oh, you're so good at this. Would you like to work in my company doing that? And you're like, oh, yeah. I know these are very stupid examples, right? But you're smarter than me, so you think better examples just based off of the information that I'm saying, okay? If you're that smart. So you feel like you get away with it, and you get a reward, and the thing is, you don't want to lose the reward. You find out, oh, I actually like this. I liked how this is feeling. I will try to keep getting away with it. And it's tough getting away with it forever. There's gonna be some close calls along the way. And eventually, remember, we're talking about the two types of people with imposter syndrome. This is the first one. Eventually, you're gonna get caught, and it's gonna feel bad. And you're either gonna quit the thing entirely, or you're just gonna be in denial and then quit and be like, oh yeah, that job wasn't good enough for me. They didn't deserve me. All the while, inside your soul, that I could have probably done more, right? For me, it was, for example, my very first martial arts fight. My first martial arts fart. My first martial arts fight. English is so hard right now. Hold on, let me grab a sip of water. Alright, so that's better now. In my first martial arts fight, I knew that I didn't study or train as hard as I should have. I wouldn't even call it a fight. It was just a jiu-jitsu and judo tournament, right? It's called Neguasa, at least in Mexico. That's what we called it. So you start fighting standing up, and it's only grappling, and they can take you down, and then you have to continue on the ground, whatever. And it's basically you're trying to get a submission, right? And I lasted in my first combat for about a minute and a half, and I spent the whole minute in that minute and a half, like the first 30 seconds, just trying for my life not to end up choked. And then when I finally got choked, I spent the last 1 minute of that combat just like a fish out of water, just kicking everywhere, trying not to die. And the guy just kept choking me. And I'm like, that. Just trying to survive. And here's the issue with that. I had been practicing at that point, until that point, martial arts for about like 3 years. Which doesn't sound like too much, but I was 17 at this point. So 3 years before that, I was 14 when I started practicing martial arts. Probably closer to 13 actually, but I don't know, my times might be off. But so that period of time is a period of time where you develop your personality, and that would be the Mexican equivalent of high school as well. So I had really made a reputation around me that I was like the martial arts guy. And and that I could fight. Now, in my defense, I could fight. Like I would get in brawls at school, like when people would try to mess with me or whatever. And some of them were like kind of brutal. But the fact of the matter is, when I actually went to a tournament, my first tournament, after many years of practicing different martial arts, not many different, but just like a few. And I fought someone that also trained for the first time. They kicked my absolute ass. And it was extremely embarrassing. And then I went on to have another match after that one, and I won, but I felt like it was unfair because the kid was younger or smaller, but then also I was way smaller than the other guy that beat me the first time. Anyways, my point is, I could not accept that I, like, to myself and to my friends, like, my ego was so damaged at this point. It was just demolished after my formative years. I don't know if those are considered formative years, but after my character arc of 13 or 14 to 17, my self-image of myself just got demolished, and I got proven a fool. And I feel embarrassed to say it even now. Like I still feel like my friends would be disappointed to know that I wasn't like not nearly as cool as I thought I was. Anyways, I just could not accept that. And I told myself, well, the other guy was taller. That's why I lost. And I told myself, well, I do have torticollis since I woke up and I cannot turn my neck very well because I had an injury days prior. So that's probably why I lost. And like maybe, but also I knew full well that I had not trained nearly as hard as I should have. And that I had been lazy. Now, I wasn't just being lazy just because I was lazy, right? I was at this point already in college, in my first year in college, and I was very, very tough. And I had a lot going on, and I had a girlfriend or two. No, it was just one. And I had a girlfriend, and I spent way more time than I should have with her instead of training. So my point is, I knew, because I was dumb, but I was not that dumb. So I knew for a fact that it was my fault that I lost. It wasn't the neck. It wasn't that the other guy was taller. It was nothing. So that will happen to you as well when I tell you. You know, part of you knows, at least maybe not right now in life, but at some point. And remember, this is only the first type of impostor syndrome, person with impostor syndrome, that you could have tried harder. And since you know that, but you don't acknowledge it, then you get that remorse called impostor syndrome. I think and it just manifests itself at different levels in different ways. For some people, it's way worse. For other people, it's just like something in the back of their head that they don't really pay too much attention to. And the other type of person with severe impostor syndrome, like myself, I would argue, is the type of person, is the exalted one. When you finally level up, when you finally click, you are, if it was, I don't know, some MMORPG, you hit max level. Yeah, you still have like a bunch of meta gear to acquire. Like you're not the best of the best. You haven't just won at life just because, but you hit max level. Like, oh, it just clicked, right? It's the people who figure out people with imposter syndrome. At some point, they realize that they still have the mentality of fake it till you make it, like the other ones. But at some point, they just realize that it takes almost more energy to fake it than to make it. They go, hey, wait a minute. I'm putting way more energy. Let's go back to my example in that martial arts match. I'm putting way more energy into pretending to be this guy who is like the martial arts guy, and who probably, like, people must think that I have like knowledge of secret techniques. Even some fights I wouldn't even have to fight, right? People were like bullying someone else, and I would step in, and they were like, "Oh, damn, it's the martial arts guy. He probably knows things," because they heard that maybe some other time I fought some other guy and beat him or whatever. And this is a real thing. These things actually happened, but I just at some point realized, wait a second, that takes so much more effort pretending to be that guy and always having to keep up this fragile ego than actually just training hard and just focusing. Because I would still go to train, obviously. Like, I was training martial arts. It's just, I was like more worried in martial arts about pretending in front of my partners that maybe I was more badass than they thought, right? I don't know. Like, maybe it was like trying to portray an image of me being tougher than I was, even while I was training martial arts. And that sort of posturing, it just held me back. That sort of faking it just held me back. And that's the other type of people with imposter syndrome, right? You realize, I'm putting way more effort into pretending to be the thing, into pretending that I do enough of the thing, than into actually just doing the thing. And turns out, when you actually decide to do the thing, you realize, the first time you succeed, it's like, whoa, it must have been an accident, right? Just a chance. But then you do it again, and you succeed again and again and again. Sorry. And you actually figure out, oh, now I'm actually doing the thing. And then it clicks. And it feels like magic. It feels like cheating. And you're like, am I still cheating? But no, you actually took time. You got your head out of your arse, and you actually took time to put effort into the actual thing that you were pretending this whole time to be putting effort into. And you pretended so hard that it just became harder to pretend than to actually do it. And that's amazing. That's magical. Now, I think that's the exalted pretender, because that person, like, I think that is such an advantage in life to be that sort of person with imposter syndrome. I'll just call them impostors. It's easier to just call them that way. Call us, I should say. It's such an advantage in life to be the second type, and it feels like a disadvantage in life to be the first. Which is, in other words, means it can be a disadvantage to have imposter syndrome, but it's an advantage to know how to use it. Because someone who has leveled up into the second type of impostor, not the first one where he's only pretending, someone who has leveled up to the second one, he carries with him a lot of experience from the pretending. And through all his long years of pretending, he has learned a lot about himself. And he has learned a lot about people, how they treated him while he was pretending. And he has also learned a lot about the world. And I know that sounds very, very cheesy and cringe, but like I said, everything that's worth anything is cringe. Deal with it, grow up. Now, the only thing is, how do you know which type of imposter you are? Well, I think that's just super easy. Just ask yourself. I'm putting already so much effort into pretending. Would it be easier to put effort into actually doing the thing? And who knows? The answer maybe yes. The answer maybe no. And the other thing that can happen is you won't even be able to hear the answer because you'll be filled with excuses. Like, oh no, don't listen to that weird guy on YouTube with a mustache. He is talking about people that are different from you. Those other people can make it. He can make it. You can't. You have to keep faking it because you're different, because you're less. And you just tell that voice, shut the hell up, man. You don't know what you're talking about. And then you start to realize, oh, I've actually come a long way. And I felt like a cheat the whole time. But even while I was faking it, I came far enough that people actually believed me. Sometimes. And at some point, maybe I even believed it, right? So yeah, in the end, the only person that you have to convince is, not the only, but the final person the most important person that you have to convince that you can do the thing is yourself, not other people. So yeah, sorry for my little late night rant there. It's just something I've been thinking about, and like well, I don't know if I've said this already or not, but I like to focus on. I would like in this channel to focus on starting conversations about how to be a more healthy hobbyist. And imposter syndrome is something that is in everything you can do in life, but very much so also in hobbies. I certainly suffer a lot from it. Sometimes it develops even more in hobbies because you don't think it's so important to fake it there, right? Because it's just hobbies, right? So there's no consequence. It's not the same as faking it professionally or in your relationships or whatever. But no, I think having this feeling while you're dedicating time to your hobbies is just as hurtful and damaging to you, because it means that you're not enjoying your life as much as you could if a small part of you is guilt tripping you in, like I said you so many times, you're guilt tripping yourself out of enjoying the thing. So yeah, I think a huge part of having healthy hobbies is having healthy hobbyists. So that's why I like to address these topics. But that being said, I hope you found this video helpful, and if you have any sort of feedback whatsoever, if you agree, you disagree, especially if you disagree, please let me know in the comments down below, or if you know of more literature about it that maybe contradicts what I just said, please share it down below. I can only learn from you. So thank you so much for watching, and keep doing what you love, keep guarding your joy. Remember, there's no female custodies ad astra. I'll see you on the next one.